How to train your dragon? Huh. You know what? That's not as far-fetched as you would think. Let me explain. Komodo dragons come from a family of lizards called varanids or monitors, and they are known for being hyper-carnivorous and exceptionally smart. Because of their intelligence, zoos provide them with enrichment and stimulation to keep them physically and mentally healthy. So zookeepers use different techniques to check their health, transport them safely, and enrich their lives in captivity. Dragons are smart enough to respond to a whistle, so zookeepers use a recall training technique where a whistle is blown and the dragon responds. It's a super safe way of transporting an apex predator from one area to another. There's also target training, which is used to train an assortment of zoo animals from tigers to goats. The dragon is trained to follow a colored ball on a stick and touch it with its nose. The keeper presses a clicker as a bridge to the behavior and gives a food reward to the dragon. This is important as the dragon will associate the target with food and not the keeper. However, this is still a deadly apex predator the keepers are dealing with, so if the dragon's feeling grumpy or aggressive, the training will either be adjusted or postponed. 86 the training! So that's how to train your Komodo dragon. They don't breathe fire like these ones, but that's probably a good thing. Remember the Pixar film Ratatouille? You know, the one with the rat who wants to become a chef, but he can't because he's a rat and people don't like rats touching their food. It's one of my favorites. Now, content warning, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen the film, go watch it, then come back and watch this TikTok. At the end of the movie, the food critic Anton Ego becomes a small business investor and invests in the restaurant where Remy the rat is the head chef. Which would be fine were it not for the fact that the average lifespan of a rat is around 1 to 2 years, 3 if they're lucky. That is a piss poor investment! Way to completely tank your small business, Anton Egypt!
What's a rumor about an animal that's not actually true?
Bears don't actually hibernate. Now don't get me wrong, they do have a winter sleep, but it's not actually true hibernation. Now true hibernation is what happens to an animal because of extremely cold temperatures. Their breathing slows down, their heart rate slows down, and their body temperature plummets, and they go into a very deep winter sleep, and they don't wake up from it for months on end. They don't get disturbed, they don't make up for it at all. If I can put it this way, it's basically as close as an animal can get to dying in its sleep without actually dying. I'm not even sure that was a good way of putting it. Now with bears, it's a bit different. Bears go into what's called torpor. Now what that is it's basically a lighter form of hibernation. Some people even call it partial hibernation. Now what that means is they get all the symptoms of a hibernating animal: slowed heart rate, slow breathing, low body temperature, but on warmer days in winter, they can wake up. Now that's the main difference, because they can wake up, they can forage around for food, and then they go back into their cave and they sleep again. So the sleep for torpor is a lot lighter than hibernation. This is why bears, specifically brown bears, are not actually true hibernators. And also animals like badgers, skunks, porcupines, opossums, these are all animals that go into torpor in the winter. So they wake up on warmer days to snuff around, look for what little food that they can find, and then they go back into sleep again. Now for a list of animals that do truly hibernate, look no further than these. Well, actually, you can look further because there's a little bit more than that. I may not be able to ruin this tiger, but I can absolutely ruin this one. Here's the tea on white tigers. They're not actually a species of tiger. Much like black panthers, but that's a different video. It's a Bengal tiger or a Bengal tiger cross that just happens to be white. White tigers are white because of a rare genetic mutation called leucism, which causes a lack of pigmentation in their fur. Leucism is so extremely rare that 1 in 10,000 cubs are actually born white. Also, white tigers aren't snow tigers. Tigers that are found naturally in places with snow are orange. White tigers exist in captivity, and they are all descended from one wild-caught white tiger named Mohan, who was captured from the wild in India in the 1950s. Because leucism is so rare, making more white tigers requires inbreeding them. Mohan was bred with his offspring, their siblings were bred with each other siblings were bred with... yeah, it's gross. And generations of inbreeding have given these cats a litany of health problems. Breeders often have to go through a mess of facially deformed tigers to get the conventionally attractive ones, and the ones that aren't pretty enough are done away with. A tiger being born white is essentially a handicap. As a cub, they stick out like a sore thumb and can be easy meat for predators. And in the rare instance that a cub does survive to adulthood, it's gonna have a hard time hunting, because when you're an ambush hunter and you can't hide from your dinner, you're screwed. This is why accredited zoos and sanctuaries do not breed white tigers, because it causes so much harm to the animals involved and they have zero conservation value. You can still love white tigers, just know the truth behind that Caucasian coat and support places that rescue them rather than breed them. And the truth is, they're inbred abominations with pretty privilege. Sorry!